It's time for your Week 3 Blue Rush preview show. It's our Giants preview show for the New York Post and SNY. It's a short week for the Giants after that historic comeback win out in Arizona, but it's on to the next. And that next is the San Francisco 49ers out in the Bay Area for some Thursday night football. Primetime football, baby. You gotta love it. For this week's Know Your Enemy, we have Carlos Ramírez of NBC Sports Bay Area. He does the 49ers pregame and postgame show. But now, let's bring in the playmakers of Blue Rush. Longtime Giants beat writer for the Post, Paul Schwartz, is live from Arizona. He's out there traveling. He's out there with the team before they head out to San Francisco. And primetime, Lawrence Tynes, two-time Super Bowl champ for the G-Men. And he's in the house right now. Fellas, what's going on? I'm Brandon London. For those of you who don't know, 24-hour rule is in effect. Big win on Sunday, but it's time to look ahead in a short week. Tynes, you know all about this, man. Kind of give us what the vibes are like or the mood for the players going into this short week, primetime football.
Yeah, great to see you guys. Paul, hope you're enjoying Arizona. First and foremost, you just got to take care of your body. You can to get yourself ready to play. It is such a tough task. Those Thursday night games are hell. Certainly not for kickers, but again, for the guys that are tackling and running and getting hit. So it's a big challenge to get your body feeling somewhat ready to play in the National Football League, even for a Sunday game week to week. 3 to 4 days is not a lot of time, but I think most importantly, rest. You know, Coach Coughlin, my last Thursday night game in the NFL, literally, I think he started this, gave us the entire week off. We played Carolina. Wow. We go down there. We didn't practice all week, didn't do anything. Literally, everything was a walkthrough. We go down to Carolina, beat Cam Newton and the boys by 30 points, something like that. Ramírez and Brandon had a career game that night, so that tells you how long ago it was. But, yeah, just getting the body ready, and obviously a huge challenge in front of the Giants this week.
I mean, throughout the throwback, Ramírez and Brandon, the 13 before Odell. Paul,
that's right.
Is Brian Daboll giving them the full week off? You're out there with the team. What's your practice report, and can we get any injury updates heading into this primetime must-win against the San Francisco 49ers?
Hey, guys, I remember that Ramírez and Brandon, slant, right? Using that big body, right? Slant, move the chains, yep. Well, it's over 100 degrees in Tempe, Arizona, where the Giants are staying. They do have walkthroughs on the field, but yeah, Lawrence, as you said, there's nothing really resembling a practice, which is why a lot of these injured guys, you know, they're not going to be able to test themselves in practice. So it's going to go all the way to Levi's Stadium, walk, you know, a pre-game workouts to see if some of these guys like Andrew Thomas, Wan'Dale Robinson, probably not. If some of these guys, you know, if they can play, because they're really not testing themselves at all. You know, I think the Giants, you know, had to do a good job of moving past that crazy game because, as you guys know and have said, it is no time. There is literally no time to dwell on the past when you have these games. You know, they stayed here, they stayed out in Tempe. They're, you know, doing these walkthroughs for a couple of days. Wednesday morning, they are having a quick walkthrough and then flying the short flight to San Francisco. The game will be in Santa Clara, and then play Thursday night, back home Friday. So, and then the weekend off. So, you know, I think the Giants have the right mindset, but, you know, do they have the right willpower and talent to face a very, 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 maybe the biggest challenge in the league right now?
Paul, it's early out there. I don't think the coordinators have and Coach Daboll have spoke as of now, as the time we're recording this. Any updates on Saquon Barkley, Andrew Thomas, or any of the guys who could possibly miss this game on Thursday?
Yeah, well, short week coordinators won't talk to us. They need to be hunkered down and preparing for their. They will not get them this week. Look, Saquon Barkley's got a ankle, you know, sprained ankle, low ankle sprain, not a high ankle sprain. It's swelled up. It's basically a 3-week deal, you know, give or take, probably right in that ballpark. So the way I figured it, it will be 21 days for Saquon Barkley from the injury to when the Giants play. Week 5, I guess. So, you know, he'll definitely miss week 3. I would say he'll definitely miss week 4. And can he come back in week 5? I would say that's likely. It's just the way it is, you know, and it's so frustrating because it came on a run the clock out, 2-yard run. He was kind of fighting for a couple more yards and to keep the clock moving, but it was not a really pertinent play in the game. They were in, well within Graham Gano's field goal range for the game-winning field goal. Very frustrating, which is why Saquon, threw his helmet off and was so upset. Daniel Jones spoke to him and said that he's doing okay, but he obviously is frustrated. And, Daniel admitted we're going to miss him because, he can do things that other guys can't do. As far as Andrew Thomas, like I said, he's not going to do a lot in practice because there really is no practice. I don't think he was really close this past week to play. I don't really know what's going to happen. I'm not going to, pretend that I do know. I think they probably err on the side of caution and sit him out this game and give him the full, after this, it's 10 days before they play against the Seattle, maybe 11 days because they play on Monday night. And, Josh Azudu held up okay against, against the Cardinals at left tackle. Ben Bredesen's not going to play because he's in the concussion protocol. There's really no way you can be cleared in 4 days to get out of that protocol. So it's going to be Mark Lewinsky, who was benched. And they always say, what when you're benched, right? You got to be prepared to play. He was benched. He took it hard, took it like a pro, and now he's back in the lineup.
Tynes, it looks like they're going to be missing two of their best players, but they do have mother momentum on their side. So I'm going to ask you, man, do you think that the Giants' momentum from that second half of Arizona carry over into this game Thursday night against the 49ers?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in momentum and confidence as a player. I think when you do well, obviously it translates week to week. Now, the Niners are a completely different opponent than the Arizona Cardinals. But having said that, I think the Giants found something they were good at, found some things they like, right? It's so early in the season. These guys don't play a lot together in the preseason. In live action, they finally found some things that they're good at. Every team's going to have them. Those staple plays they go to, the runs, the play actions. So, yes, absolutely believe in confidence. Again, we don't know if that's enough to beat the 49ers on the road on a short week, but I do expect the Giants to play well against this team. Formidable opponent, great pass rush, great defense, runs the ball really, really well. Kyle Shanahan, we know what he brings. It's going to be a difficult challenge, but certainly one I think they feel better about now than they did, 7-8 days ago. Yeah,
they celebrate, clean up, move on, and get ready for this 49ers team. We're talking about momentum. In the second half of that Arizona game, Giants scored 4 touchdowns and a field goal, put up 31 points. So like you said, they got a lot to carry over. And when they talk about players, not plays, they got the ball to a bunch of different players in that second half. So it's going to be interesting to see who kind of comes out and is that spark early in the game for this Giants team. Let's stay on offense, Paul. Mike Kafka, a lot of people are saying he needs to be aggressive early. New York had been outscored 74-0 in their last 3 first half played. They have to throw this football. Can these receivers step up early and get it done with Mike Kafka's offense in this first half of this 49ers game?
That's the second question. The first question is, do they have enough confidence in their offensive line to call those plays? You know what I mean? It's easy. It's very easy. You guys know, it's very easy to call those plays if you feel that the quarterback is protected. And we'll see. The first half, the whole game in Dallas against the Cowboys, not in Dallas, the first half against the Cardinals in Arizona, the offensive line was not really a stable unit, and therefore Daniel Jones can't go into his bag of tricks that looked so great in the second half in that game. I think without Saquon Barkley, I still think they need to run the ball. I think they have confidence in Matt Breida. So I don't know. It's easy to say, first play of the game, they should just run a go to Jalen Hyatt like they did in the first play of the second half against the Cardinals and see if they can run with them and see if they can block it up. Maybe they will. But, this is a classic. You need to shorten this game. You need to shorten the game against the 49ers. And they're going to have to be as creative, as they possibly can be. I don't know. You know what? It's really, I don't know what to make of that last game. I really don't. The first half the Giants, no. Is the second half the Giants? Probably not. It's somewhere in the middle. So, I know, Lawrence, you mentioned you're a big believer in momentum. I'm not sure what momentum there is. Because, in the first series, in San Francisco, in Santa Clara at Levi Stadium, if the Giants get sacked and have a false start, I think then the momentum is, oh, shoot, it's the same stuff we've been doing for 6 quarters. If they come out and have a great drive, it's, oh, man, this is what we did in the second half. So pick your mode in that thing.
And I know it's time to move on from that Arizona game, but I have to highlight 4 pass plays over 25-plus yards, 6 pass plays over 15-plus yards. You want to see that carry over, and you ask, who's going to be protecting Daniel Jones? Can they hold up against this 49ers front 7? Daniel Jones has a 100.1 passer rating on play-action passes and a 56.8 passing rating on non-play-action passes this season. So it's going to be interesting to see how Mike Kafka calls his game. Can you get him out of the pocket to create a little bit of extra time to get the ball to the weapons? But a big question in this game, Tynes, is who will get the carries with Saquon out? If you're Mike Kafka, who is now your RB1 going into San Francisco?
Well, I think Breida, obviously, because of what he brings in the pass protection game, and he's a veteran and he's been around. I mean, you've still got Brightwell and Gray, which I assume they will get some carries. Both those guys can run the football. But again, the Niners see the second least rushing attempts per game, 16 per game. Teams pass against them. They know they can't really run the ball against the Niners, so they only have 32 rushing attempts against them this season. So 16 per game, that's about average, right? You factor in Daniel Jones's run ability. You do have to run the football, guys. They lead the league in pressures and quarterback hurries with that D-line. Bosa does not have a sack. Drake Jackson, a second-year player, is leading the team with 3 sacks. Armstead, I believe, maybe has 1 or none. But this team is all based on the front 7. I think you can get after this secondary a little bit. You're going to have to hold up front, but I do believe the Giants can make some plays in the passing game against this team. I don't know how well they're going to run it, just based on who the Niners are and what they've shown. But again, I think they will be able to throw the football. You are going to have to run it a little bit. But what's that?
Do you see Kafka calling a lot of design runs for Daniel Jones?
I would like to see some screen game, with Breida and things like that to keep that pass rush a little bit at bay. But yeah, I think Daniel's going to have to run the football. I really do. I think he's going to have, the Niners have only seen Pittsburgh and the Rams. Pickett and Stafford, 2 quarterbacks that don't run. So obviously that's part of the Giants' DNA on offense. You have to mix that in and make them aware of, obviously Daniel can run the football. So, but I do think this becomes a passing game. That's really the only way I think you can beat the Niners. You're not going to run it 45, 50 times against this team.
Yeah, quick game is the ball's going to have to get out of Daniel Jones' hands fast. Again, there's a lot of yak receivers on this offense, and if you can get some of these guys the ball in space, you're able to see them do what they do or do what they were brought in to do. Paul, final thought on the offense before we move on and talk about the Giants' defense against the 49ers offense.
Well, here's what Daniel Jones said about Matt Breida, and tell me, this is, if you're a player, you want this to be said about you, right? He's extremely dependable. He's just always doing the right thing. He's a guy you can definitely count on. Now, having said that, this coaching staff is not afraid to put young guys on the field, right? We've seen it. I mean, heck, they start 2 rookie cornerbacks, which is unheard of. So Gary Brightwell's not a rookie, but he's not a guy who's had a lot of carries. Eric Gray is a rookie. Those guys are going to get the ball, I think. In certain situations, I think they will. Yeah, I agree. Unless the running game is really cooking, I don't think you're going to have 30 rushing attempts in this game. Look, once again, it's hard to, not belabor this point, but, they had this big offensive line shakeup and they benched Mark Lewinsky, and now he's back in. So, Josh Ezeudu, was he able to hold up at left tackle? Marcus McKethan made his first career start. Isn't it cool that Ezeudu and McKethan were line mates at North Carolina, and now they're line mates early in their career with the Giants? That's pretty good. Yep. We'll see how they hold up. This is the biggest challenge they will have ever faced, certainly with this defensive front. Sometimes you just got to wing it and hope that these guys can do the job, because, there's not 5 other guys they can put in there.
Absolutely. And if they hold up, maybe Daniel Jones can cook, get after that 49ers secondary. Let's move over Riverside. Let's talk about this Giants defense against Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy. They cannot let things get pretty for Brock Purdy, who's 7-0 in the regular season as a starting quarterback. this is probably going to be one of Wink Martindale's biggest tests of the entire season. How are you, Tynes? How do you think Wink Martindale and this Giants defense is going to attack Kyle Shanahan and this system?
I think you're just going to stay with who you are. Now, they definitely got to generate more pressure. Wink Martindale faced Kyle Shanahan in 2019 as a Ravens coordinator, and they won the game. It was on a field goal, close game, 2017, 23-20, something like that. He held the Shanahan offense under about 275 yards. Now, again, I was on the road in Baltimore. He's seen this cast of characters. It was Jimmy G, Kittle, Deebo Samuel, some of those guys. The problem is Brendan Ayuk, guys. He's their go-to deep threat guy. Christian McCaffrey does everything. Like you mentioned, Brock Purdy is 7-0 as a starter. They're averaging 32 points a game with him under center. In those 7 games, 32 points per game is what they're averaging. They run the ball well. They throw the ball well. They have great balance. George Kittle has not really been a factor this season at all. Deebo Samuel, slow to get started. Ayuk's kind of their big play guy. Everything goes through McCaffrey. I think you just bring pressure. Be who you are. Try and get some negative plays and get them behind the chains. I don't think you can just sit there and play, cover 2, cover 3. Yeah, I just think you got to be who you are, and I think Wink will do that. He'll mix it up a little bit. Would love to see Leonard Williams show up, guys. We haven't really talked about him this year. He has been very, very quiet. Has not played well. If you watch the film, he is not making any impact plays. So this D-line is going to have a hell of a football game in order for the Giants to even have a chance.
Yeah, the Giants have no sacks on the season, and they don't have a turnover. They're going to have to get...
By the way, the only team in the NFL without a sack this year.
And that's when you talk about a Wink Martindale defense, and you never think that you would hear that stat behind him. One of our producers, Jeff Stansberry, had put down Xavier McKinney is the only Giant with a sack in the 2023 calendar year. So that's something to kind of look at. So if you are Wink, how do you generate this pressure against the 49ers offense, Paul?
Well, I do think Wink is sending a little less pressure. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I do think so. And could that be that he has 2 rookie cornerbacks and he really doesn't, wants to play a little more coverage? I think that certainly is a factor. Does Wink have to say, you know what? Those guys, have to have their battlefield promotions. I just have to be what I'm going to be. Last year when Christian McCaffrey was with the Panthers and the Giants beat them, I believe in week 2, Xavier McKinney did some spying on McKinney. It'll be interesting to see if he does that again, on McCaffrey. Could Isaiah Simmons possibly be a guy who could maybe, take some snaps as a spy for Christian McCaffrey? Maybe. I mean, he is the fulcrum. And, it's amazing, Brandon, you just, recited those stats and, they roll really easily off the tongue, right? Oh, Brock Purdy is 7-0 as a starter. I mean, this is incredible what is going on. This is incredible, isn't it? That you look at the Giants, right? Number 6 pick in the draft, Daniel Jones, right? Look across town, the Jets. Number 2 pick in the draft, Zach Wilson. Teams give up the farm to find a quarterback. And the 49ers just, did they find gold? Did they find, it'd be ironic if the 49ers found gold, right? But, this guy was the last pick in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant. Can he operate any system? Probably not. So system versus player, that this guy is operating a high-powered, highly efficient, winning offense and football operation. Was every team scouting department screwed up with this guy? I mean, it really is. When you can have a quarterback playing that well and an offense that well and paying the guy so little money, man, it's a great way to operate.
You mentioned that system. I mean, it's like they found the right quarterback for Kyle Shanahan's offense. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo was good in it. Trey Lance struggled. But it just seems like Brock Purdy just stepped in, and this is where he needs to be. And then on top of that, Tynes, you mentioned the weapons of Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, CMC, Brandon Ayuk, Brendan Jennings. The list just goes on from guys who can step up and make plays for this Kyle Shanahan offense. I know everyone always says all they run is stretch plays and counters, but at the end of the day, you have to stop it. and this is what's working well from them, and then they go play action over the top of that. Now, Brock Purdy missed 3 huge deep throws last game, and a lot of people were saying like, oh, his arm is too strong coming back from that surgery. But at the end of the day, he's great when it comes to these intermediate routes, getting guys the ball and anticipation throws. So it's going to be interesting to watch the chess match between Wink Martindale and Kyle Shanahan. Tynes, final thoughts on Giants defense?
Yeah, just get after Purdy. I think you just got to make him make quick decisions. He is a good intermediate thrower. I can see the Niners coming out potentially and trying to rectify his long ball issues and go deep a couple times. That's fine. I think that plays right into the Giants' hands. But you just got to get hands in his face. He's not the biggest guy. He will tuck it and run. He does have some athleticism to move with his feet. But again, don't change who you are. Get after the quarterback, blitz him, cause confusion. I know that's easier said than done. But again, I think that's what the Giants have to do on Thursday.
Absolutely. And you said that Leonard Williams.
One thing,
go ahead.
Yeah, one thing about, Lawrence mentioned Leonard Williams. First of all, Brandon Ayuk came out of that game last week with a bad shoulder. Okay, he didn't practice, projected on Monday, so he is worth, on a short week, he is worth, watching to see if he's going to be limited or even not play. I mean, you have a bad shoulder, it's kind of tough turnaround. And
yep.
Lawrence mentioned, putting out the milk carton for Leonard Williams. A milk carton has 4 sides last I checked, right? One of those sides has to be a picture of Kayvon Thibodeau. I mean, let's face it. He had no tackles in a lot of snaps against the Cardinals. No tackles. I mean, that's not easy to do. So, it's not all about sacks. It's not all about the numbers. Kayvon does a lot of things, but he is not doing a lot of things right now for this defense. And, this is a time.
Paul, I have a famous milk carton on Twitter. So are you saying you want me to put Kayvon Thibodeau on the milk carton today? Because I will.
Well,
I can put him on there.
We saw Leonard is good. Thibodeau is good. We could probably fill up the other two there, right?
Just a quick copy and paste. Just a quick copy and paste. I'll go Thibodeau if that's what it takes.
Yeah.
But yeah, he definitely needs to show up. There's a few others out there too.
Yeah, because you remember not around this time, but you remember we kind of called him out, but called him up to make plays. And in the Washington game, he kind of single-handedly made plays that game. So this could be a huge game, not only on the impact he can have on the win or the loss, but just in the psyche. Playing in New York is no easy place, Tynes.
Well, he's out west with his family and friends, and people are going to be out there. I mean, I expect to see a huge game from Kayvon Thibodeau. I know he's feeling a little bit of pressure, obviously, from the media, and there's being some things said on social media. So, yeah, maybe it's time he shows up. But again, the problem with that, Brandon, that game against the Commanders last year is we know this game, the NFL, is about consistency. You cannot do that once and then not show up for the next 10 games or whatever it's been. The NFL is all about consistency week in and week out. That's how you get paid. That's how you keep playing longer in this league. So he's got to become more consistent, and hopefully he shows up on Sunday or Thursday. It'll be a big deal for the Giants.
Tynes, you're right. Consistency leads to longevity, and longevity builds legendary status when it comes to this league, especially here in New York. So it's going to be interesting to see Kayvon on Thursday night. All right, that's how we think this matchup is going to go. We broke it down. Now it's time to hear from the ops. I spoke with NBC Sports Bay Area's 49ers pregame and postgame analyst Carlos Ramírez about how he thinks this game is going to go in this week's Know Your Enemy. Carlos, thanks for joining us, man. I was watching a lot of you guys broadcast, getting ready for this Know Your Enemy segment. Break this thing down like you, D-Witt, and the gang do for the post and pregame show, man. Let's start with talking about the 2 units that played their best football in the second half of their last games. The Giants' offense got some scores. The Niners' D got some stops and turnovers. How do you see defense coordinator Steve Wilks calling this game?
How's it going, guys? Thanks for the invitation. It's going to be a very interesting game because it's a short turnaround, right? It's Sunday to Thursday Night Football. So that might change some of the dynamics that both Steve Wilks and Kyle Shanahan approach to this TNF game here at Levi Stadium. Now with no Saquon Barkley, I also think that changes the dynamic of how Steve Wilks might approach this game. And they do know Matt Breida from his time here in San Francisco. So that, I think, is an advantage for the 49ers. One thing they have to take into consideration is that short, quick turnaround and how they're going to mix and match and bring guys up to the defensive line. It's going to be pivotal for the 49ers to control time of possession, but also control the run game. Don't let those receivers be a factor. If the Giants fall back behind early in this game and they're not able to run the football with Breida and Daniel Jones, then it's going to be a receiving game, and that might be some of the issues the 49ers have to deal with. We're talking about a defense that goes out with a 4-3 package. That's their base package, but works most of the time out of the nickel, and that is Isaiah Oliver's mark now this season. He is replacing Jimmy Ward, who also replaced K'Wan Williams, and last game was a breakout game for Isaiah Oliver. He got a pick. He got a big-time fourth down stop for the 49ers. I see a lot of pressure, but coming up in waves. Again, it's a short turnaround, so we might see Nick Bosa come in and out. We might see Eric Armstead, Javon Hargrave, and those boys, Drake Jackson, come in and out more so than they do on a regular week, because they do need those fresh legs on a short week. I think the defensive plan is going to be sound. They need to be physical. This team has to play physical football like they always do. You know this. And the tone setter is Fred Warner. The defense goes not as Nick Bosa goes. It does on the pressure side, but the attitude, the demeanor that this defense brings stems everything from number 54, and I expect him to have a huge game on Thursday.
Yeah, especially with Saquon Barkley being out. You mentioned Matt Breida. A lot of Giants fans don't know who the Giants' RB2 is. Saquon gets the bulk of the carries. Matt Breida has 3 carries for 14 yards on the season, and Gary Brightwell has 1 for 5. But that brings me to the next question, because that 49ers defense hasn't seen a quarterback this year that's a dual threat like Daniel Jones. So is Daniel Jones' legs, could that be a threat to the Niner defense?
That's a great question, because in the past, this 49ers defense with both Robert Saleh, now the Jets head coach, and DeMeco Ryans down in Houston, they have had issues with mobile quarterbacks, with Kyler Murray, with Lamar Jackson, with Jalen Hurts, and so on and so forth, with Patrick Mahomes. So that does bring a new element. That does bring a wrinkle to the Giants offense. And I want to see how Steve Wilks deals with that issue. Having said that, you can't now play with Saquon Barkley. That might take out the RPO element, even though, like you said, they do have 2 good, stout running backs to back up Saquon, and they do know Matt Breida. That's going to be a challenge. However, if this game gets out of hand and the 49ers have a big lead early in the game, then the run game and Daniel Jones's legs becomes a moot point. Mm-hmm. They do have some plans. They do have to learn how to contain that pocket. This might be, again, on a short week, the 49ers might have to focus not on sacking Daniel Jones, which they always try to do, but containing Daniel Jones inside the pocket, because he might be the best running back or running threat that the Giants have this week.
All right, that's talking about our QB1, or the Giants QB1. Let's talk about the Niners QB1. Brock Purdy was efficient last game, but he missed some big throws down the field. You guys worried about Brock going into this game?
The level of concern for Brock Purdy right now in San Francisco is 0, nothing, nada, cero, because we've seen it over and over again, not just on regular games, but in the practice field. The throws he missed on Sunday were very on Brock Purdy-like. He does not miss open players. He does not miss open receivers. He missed 3 of them on Sunday, and 2 of them should have been touchdowns. That 30-23 score was a very lying score, I would say. It was reflective of what the game was. There is no concern whatsoever. Accuracy is the calling card for Mr. Relevant. Not irrelevant anymore, for Mr. Relevant. So, again, he reads the field better than any quarterback that Kyle Shanahan has had, perhaps in his career, maybe even better than Kirk Cousins. He knows where to go with the football. He knows who to feed, when, where, and why. He is so far one of the best readers of coverages and progressions that Kyle Shanahan has ever seen playing football. So the touch is going to be there. He's going to have to learn how to put a bit of more air under some of those passes. The double move that Brandon Ayuk put on Ahkello Witherspoon on Sunday was just a thing of beauty. He is going to hit those passes. Now, the challenge, I think, more so than the accuracy, is how will Brock bounce back on a short week? He's done it before. He did it last year when they had to go up in Seattle and play a game in challenging conditions, but it's the first home game. He wasn't really physically lit up by the Rams on Sunday. So to your point, the accuracy is not a concern here in San Francisco.
All right, Wink Martindale and that defense is hoping that accuracy ain't Purdy on Thursday night. So how does Brock and Kyle Shanahan attack this Giants defense? Where do you say these big plays come from?
Well, you mentioned Wink Martindale, and you know this better than I do. The Giants have to be on red alert on their run game, because that is something they cannot afford. To any team who plays the 49ers needs to control or try to diminish the running game. Something happened on Sunday that I thought was really curious. The only running back that Kyle Shanahan deployed was Christian McCaffrey. And on the post-game presser, he said that it was on him, that he made a mistake by not giving any reps to Elijah Mitchell or JP Mason. I know Kyle Shanahan. I've covered him for the past 5 seasons. This man is, in a good sense, a control freak. Nothing gets past or by Kyle Shanahan. I do not for 1 second buy that he didn't know or wasn't aware that Elijah Mitchell or JP Mason did not take a single snap and that everything went to Christian McCaffrey. I think he knew it was a short week. I think he knew the Giants have issues with the run game, and he just wanted to keep both of those guys fresh for the game. And get ready, because I think he's going to deploy a 3-headed monster on Thursday. Christian McCaffrey is going to get the majority of the snaps. Don't get me wrong. But with Elijah Mitchell not having played on Sunday, same with JP Mason, he's now have 2 fresh backs to deploy at will. The big question becomes what happens with Brandon Ayuk. He did have some issues with the elbow and the shoulder. He wasn't heavily featured on the Rams game after that injury. He did tough it out. But now you have Deebo Samuel, who can come in as your wide receiver 1, and George Kittle has basically been deployed as a blocking tight end. So you have a lot of fresh legs, guys who haven't played over the past game or week or so. But I would go from the run game. The Giants have been, excuse the word, putrid against the run game. The Cardinals put up 151, and it's James Conner. It's not Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell and these boys. So I think everything goes from the run game. Everything begins with the run game. They're going to have to force the Giants to stack the box, and then everything opens up on the outside for Deebo, George Kittle, Jawan Jennings. If Brandon Ayuk is healthy, you'll see him on the field as well. Ronnie Bell. So I think that's the plan. Run, be really physical on a short week, and then when everything opens up, it's bombs away by Brock Purdy.
My man Carlos used a Scrabble word on us for the run game. Putrid. Triple word score right there. Hopefully things don't get putrid out there in the Bay Area on Thursday night. Carlos Ramírez, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Carlos, for that. All right, so there you have it. That's how the 49ers could potentially be looking at the game and how they could kind of just go after the Giants. We all think it's going to be a dogfight. But the thing about dogfights, it's always hard to predict them. Here's some over-unders and some predictions from various sports books. And let's go the over-under route right now with our predictions. Fellas, I'll start with you, Tynes. Brock Purdy, total passing yards, 226.5 over-under.
Well, they're traditionally in that 200 range, 205, 210. I mean, it's almost like a science with this offense and Shanahan. I'm going to go under this week. I think they get the running game going because obviously that's where the Giants really, really struggle on defense. So I think it's a running game for them. Still, they'll throw it, but under 225.6, did you say? 26.5?
226, 226.5.
I'll go under.
Paul.
I think under as well. I don't think the 49ers are going to have to run it and throw it. I just don't think so. Like I mentioned, Brandon Ayuk might be banged up or might not play. Kittle, is always a explosive play waiting to happen, but he hasn't done it yet this season. Did the Giants stop Tony Pollard? No. Did the Giants stop James Conner? No. We're going to have a prop here with Christian McCaffrey. We'll get to that, but I just don't think the 49ers are going to have to, throw it at will and throw it. So I'll say under.
I'm going to be the guy that goes with the over. I just feel like Brock Purdy has been really surgical in this Kyle Shanahan offense, and he makes a lot of anticipation throws. The Giants can't get home in terms of pressure. He's going to get the ball to some guys that have some great catch and run ability. Paul, you just mentioned Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey total yards 121 over under, and I go to you, Paul.
I'd say over. Okay, he's a hard man to keep down, right? You can have him bottled up, and they throw him a quick flare pass or a little screen, and he goes for 28 yards. Interesting. Bobby Carrick during training camp was having an especially tough day covering Saquon Barkley, and afterward he said, I think that guy is the best pass catching running back in the league. And then just the other day, that was brought up to him because of McCaffrey. Okereke and McCaffrey were teammates at Stanford. And he said, well, I didn't say that, Saquon was the best. I said they're both great. So he was kind of hedging a little bit, maybe not wanting to tweak McCaffrey before he has to play him. But he is the best pass catching running back in the league. He is. He runs routes that receivers run. So I think holding him under 121 total yards is something the Giants will not do.
Tynes. Tynes is a little frozen right there, so I'll take it. I'm going to go under. I feel like Xavier McKinney, Wink has someone there to kind of go and neutralize Christian McCaffrey. I think that the playmakers on the outside when it comes to the 49ers receivers are going to be the ones who do the dirty work. Let's see if we got my guys back up just yet before we go on to the next prop bet. Not yet. All right, so here's what I'll do. I'll give my final thoughts. I think the Giants really have to have a complete game. It cannot be a tale of two halves. I think the Giants would rather grit this one out than not show up in the beginning. But then have to come out in that second half. It's going to be hard to be out there in Santa Clara, San Francisco, at that stadium and play from behind, especially against this offense and knowing what this 49ers defense brings to the table. We're talking about arguably one of the best teams in the NFC, but one of the best defenses in football. It's going to be a Daniel Jones day. No Saquon. He's going to have to show that the DJ hype is real, and this is the game to show that. You did what you had to do against Arizona, and now to go out and to kind of have a redo against a defense that is Dallas Cowboys-esque. I think Daniel Jones, this is a redo for him to come out and show that the man is everything that he knows he is, everything that this team knows he is. Paul, I got you back. Let's get back into a couple more of these props, and I'll get your final thoughts before we close this thing out. Let's go Giants total touchdowns, 1.5 over under.
I'll go over. I think they can get 2 touchdowns in this game. It's a low number. Sometimes these games have a life of their own, right? And just because, that doesn't mean they're going to score 14 points in the first quarter. It means that, maybe they're down and they score a late touchdown, which could affect the point spread or something, but it really has no great impact in the game. So, they do have a passing attack that can get things done. I think they can do some things against the 49ers defensive backfield as long as Daniel has time, to stick his foot in the ground and make those throws. So I will say over 1.5 touchdowns, but I wouldn't have said over 2.5 touchdowns. I think 2 is right about the number.
That's why I kept it at 1.5. And yeah, I'm with you. The Rams last game had themselves a strong quarter. The Giants are going to need to match that. I want them to play with consistency, but they're going to have themselves a strong quarter. I think the Rams got 17 points in the second quarter, 2 touchdowns and a field goal. So I think the Giants can match that and do the same thing. Last but not least, total points scored for the entire game, both teams, 44.5 over under.
I think under. And a lot of that is because I just don't see the Giants scoring a lot of points. As we said, 2 touchdowns is about it, I would think, for the Giants. So, the 49ers, they're a great offense, but they're not a macho offense, I don't think. They're not like, we're going to score a lot of points. We're going to run it on you. We're going to just, put it on you. I think they're like, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to befuddle you. We're going to have you thinking this and doing that. And at the end of the day, they've got, between 27 and 31 points, and you don't, and that's why they win and you don't. So I think it's under. Teams that like to run the ball, they don't mind having long drives at all with McCaffrey. So I think 40 is right around the number, so I will go under, 44 and a half.
Yeah, I'm going to go under as well. I think Wink Martindale's defense is going to play a lot better, a lot stronger, and a lot more consistent than what they've shown in these first two games. And obviously, the 49ers defense is the 49ers defense. So it's going to be a slugfest. They're going to have to grind it out. One of those type of games. Those people watching at home on Thursday Night Football, it may not be as sexy as some of the other games where they're just throwing the ball a lot. But at the end of the day, who cares? It's all about getting a win. Paul, your final thoughts and prediction, and then we'll wrap it up.
Look, Lawrence was just talking earlier about consistency, right? Have the Giants been consistent? I mean, no. They played what? I'm not great at math, right? But 4 times 2 is 8, right? They played 8 quarters this season. The first 6 were awful. I mean, awful. Not pedestrian, not mediocre, awful. And then they played 2 really, really good quarters, the last 2 quarters in Arizona, against what we think is probably a really bad team, one of the bottom 5 teams in the league. Fine. They saved their season. They got a win instead of it would have been a humbling and embarrassing and crippling loss. Terrific. They're 1-1, which is not a bad spot to be. When you go down, lists of win this, lose this, win, lose, very few people see Thursday night at San Francisco and say, oh, the Giants will win that game. So, if they're 1-2 after this game, it's not the end of the world either. But I don't know what to expect of the Giants. I really don't. Are they going to come out and score the first touchdown or have a nice drive and kick a field goal? They haven't scored any points in the first half yet this year. So, I don't know what to expect. I'm not sure they know what to expect. They really don't. I'm not a believer that the second half is a big carryover. I really don't. I think once they get on that plane Wednesday morning and fly from Phoenix to San Francisco, I think that momentum is left behind, and then it's like we'll see what happens on Thursday night. So I don't think the Giants are in the league of the 49ers right now. I can see like a 27-13 loss. They can't get guys hurt. And then they have a long break, get the weekend off, long break before a Monday Night Football game against Seattle. And then the season really kicks in and we'll see what they're all about.
If I'm going to tell them to here's a baseball reference, but hit singles. Hit singles. Every big play or every touchdown you score or point scored in the first half is a milestone for the season. So take these little wins and then you go deep. Then you go for the grand slam. Oh, back in the clutch like he's been for such a long time for the Giants.
You need a field goal? I'm here. You need a kick at the end of the game? I'm here.
Hey, kick us home, Tynes. Kick us home with your final thoughts.
You guys go fight. Let the little kicker come in and win the game. That's just how it always works. You guys don't need me till you need me.
If Lawrence Tynes froze up like that, Lawrence, if you froze up like that, nobody around the Giants would have those 2 rings. So
that's correct.
You didn't even freeze up in Green Bay.
I almost did, though. I was 1 kick away from living in the bottom of the Hudson River there, Paul. I missed that one. Not everything is what it appears. For example, this pocket square, you guys think it's a pocket square. It's actually a Nike dry fit sock. You see that? I just pulled that out of there. You see, you thought it was a pocket square. No, it's a sock. Okay? The Giants are not what they appear. I think the Giants are a very, very good football team. I think they are a great football team. I really do. I don't know why. Something happened in that second half of the game. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Short week. The Giants go in there and win this game. I know the Niners are averaging 30 points a game. I'm going to take the Giants in a very, very close game, 2017. Graham Gano does it again. They get back home, get some rest, get going. I think the Giants are who we saw in the second half of that game against Arizona. And listen, people are going to say Arizona's not good. They're tanking for Caleb Williams. We don't know if Arizona's bad. They competed in Washington. They obviously blew the doors off the Giants in the first half. We don't know what they're going to be. That team is prepared and played pretty well. So give me the Giants 2017 on the road on a short week. Make a statement.
And it's good. And that prediction is good. And this whole episode was good. That's a wrap on our Week 3 Blue Rush preview. It's our New York Giants podcast from the New York Post and SNY. Special shout out to Emma K. Austin and Jeff Stansbury for producing the show. Subscribe to Blue Rush on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to the New York Post Sports and SNY YouTube pages. Follow the Blue Rush playlist, please. For Paul Schwartz and Lawrence Tynes coming through in the clutch. Fashionista right there. It could be a tie too, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Brandon London.
Dry fit sock.
Thank you guys for watching Blue Rush.